All right. Well, good afternoon, and thank you for joining us for another edition of the Navigating the Coronavirus Economy. I am Tom Dufour, your host and the CEO of Big Sky Franchise Team. Thank you all for tuning in. And we are waiting for our guest, Carl, to just log in here. We're just getting a couple things confirmed. So while he's logging in, we'll give a quick plug for shameless promotion for our podcast. If you haven't subscribed to that, called Multiply Your Success, the Multiply Your Success podcast. While you're waiting, go ahead, pull that up. We'd love for you to subscribe and take a look at that. Also, this is the start of 2021. So this is our first episode of our webinar series, and we do these every week. So if you're interested, you like the content, please stay tuned to us and tune in. And this week's focus for the Navigating the Coronavirus Economy series features Carl Gould, and Carl is the founder and president for 7-Stage Business Advisors, and he's going to talk through the 7 stages of business growth as part of this process. So, Carl, I see you're on there. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can. We sure can. Absolutely. So, Carl, did you want to go ahead? I don't know if oh, there you are.
Here we go.
Hello.
I see you. You
Great.
see me, but I don't see Yvonne, Guy, Brian, Fireflies, and others.
Yeah.
Well, we'll work on that part.
Yeah.
There we go. Hey, Guy, how you doing? Hey,
there
Yvonne.
we are. Well, Carl, I'd love to have you do a little intro about 7-Stage, business advisors, what you're doing, and then talk through the 7 stages of business growth, and share some of that. And if you have listened to our podcast, Carl was a guest here a couple months ago and gave an awesome session on that. And we said, Carl, this was amazing. We've got to have you back and give us more depth and give you a little another window here to share some of this information. So thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me, guys, and thanks for all of you for coming on. I get the real privilege. I get the real privilege of getting to work with companies all over the world and see how and what is working for them and what's working wherever. So I started from very humble beginnings. I had a landscaping company back in the 80s. I sold that in the 90s. Had a construction company. Sold that business, real estate development, and but I started coaching in the 1990s, in 1990, I should say. And if there were such a thing as a side hustle, if that was a word, that was my side hustle. So I was a side hustle coach for Tony Robbins and Ken Blanchard and Stephen Covey and Dale Carnegie companies and the Adidas methodology. You name it. If there was a certification out there, I went and got it. So, and then, I hired a coach for my business, and I had a construction company, like I said, that ran me more than I ran it, to be quite honest. So if there were hashtags back then, our hashtag was hang up the hammer. So because the business was running me, I'm just going to get a little bit more light here, guys. There we go. That's better. And so I learned the real power of having an advisor help me kind of condense the learning curve. And so I didn't have to make the mistakes other people made, and I could benefit from the insights that they did. And so over the years, since 1990, we have been tracking what are the trends of growth everywhere in the world. And we've done business now in 68 countries. So we see what's coming. We see what the trends are. We see what Europe and South Africa and New Zealand and Australia are doing about COVID, and what are some of the trends that are emerging. And what I was going to focus on today was talk about, the 7 very distinct stages of how you grow your business. And I'll tie in what you should be doing right now, what you should be thinking about, and what you should be doing. So, Tom, we have something like, what'd you say, like 4.5 hours? We're going to be done by.
Yeah. We've got until, 7 a.m. tomorrow morning.
Right. Good. Yeah. Brian said, keep it coming. He's like, Carl, don't shortchange me, dude. I don't want to see anything under 4 hours. So,
Yeah.
so thank you for that. So what I'd like to do is I would like this to be interactive. I want to know what kind of businesses you all have, and also what are some of the challenges that you're facing. So if you wouldn't mind going to the chat feature and just telling me what is your business? What kind of business are you in? Or I'm in a consulting business. I have a retail shop. You don't have to give away anything confidential, but just give me a flavor for what is what business that you do right now. And if you wouldn't mind, after that, so hit submit and then go right back to it and say, here's my biggest challenge right now. I can't get my employees back to work because I told them they can all just tell me when they're ready, and they haven't told me they're ready yet, and I'm ready to bring them back. All right, that's a common one. Yeah, okay, great. Franchise recruiter, super. I want to expand. Do I do it? Is now the time to invest? Is now the time to start another business, launch another product, expand my team? What are those things I should be thinking about right now? Should I look at my pricing? I haven't changed my pricing in forever, so that's on my mind. So, okay. I can share my screen and go to the slides if you'd like, Tom.
Absolutely. Let's just see here.
All right. So we have a few franchise recruiters and franchise consultants. Okay, cool. Guy and Brian. Yvonne, don't hold out on us. Don't hold out on us. Business advisory firms. Monica, thank you. Fireflies. I like that. VA agency. All right, cool. I'm a big fan. I took my entire business virtual in 2007. So love the fact that I was able to do that, but thank you for that. All right, cool. Now go ahead. What's your top challenge? And go. All right. And in the meantime, I will share my screen and I'll put some slides up here and we'll get things going here. All right. Okay. While you're doing that. Adding staff. Yep. Okay. Yep. No doubt about that. That'll be something you'll want to be careful of. Okay. Share my screen. Buying a franchise, I thought I saw. Buying a franchise this year. Great. Okay. All right. Okay. Because I'll tailor my comments towards what you guys tell me the challenges are. You're not going to put on anything up there I haven't heard about before. So, and we are under no illusions here that your business is perfect. So don't think you have to do that. This is a judgment-free zone. Guy might give you a hard time, but no judgment from me, So anyway, and so I can tailor my comments directly to you guys. So by all means, if anything you want to share, very respectful of how transparent you're being. So, all right. So we want to navigate the coronavirus economy. I have good news for you guys. Ready for some good news? The good news is COVID is over. It's over. All right. No, I'm not saying that the virus isn't around us. Oh, it's everywhere. And we're going to be dealing with the COVID-19, not just for this year, not just for next year, but we're going to be dealing with this for the next 5 years. And we're going to be dealing with the coronavirus economy for the next 5 to 9 years. Okay. This is following a very predictable trend. Every 80 years or so, we go through a world conflict in a business season we call winter. And we are in the middle of winter, and winter, not because it's on the calendar, but it's because it started in 2005 and it's a 25-year cycle, and it's supposed to go till 2029. All right, there's a lot of things driving that, and maybe that's a topic for another day. But what you should expect is, various levels of restrictions for the next couple months. The world's going to open back up yet, but like they do in Asia, you know what they're going to say this fall during flu season? Put your mask back on. Social distancing again. We're going to have that for the next few years. Okay. So the coronavirus itself is here. It's here to stay. And there is no magic bullet that's going to get us out. If you could follow any of the data of any of the pandemics from the past, and I was privileged enough to sit in on one of the leading economists in February, right before the lockdowns, who came directly from briefing the president and the coronavirus task force and gave us the same briefing he gave him. It was fascinating. And I got to tell you, what's happening now is following that data. We're following it almost like clockwork. And what will determine where we go from here is everybody's personal behavior. That's the wild card at this point. How long it goes, how long it stays. And I'm not here to tell you what's the right behavior, the wrong behavior, but in every pandemic going back for the last 100 years, he compared all of them. And he said, look at the trends, and they follow. And we have been following the trends. So, but as far as business is concerned, COVID's over. And there is no pre-COVID world again, guys. It's gone, right? This has been the most ruthless and merciless correction I have ever seen in business. I've been in business since 1985. This is my 36th year as an entrepreneur. And this is worse than 87. This is worse than 92. This is worse than 2001. And it's worse than 2008 and 2009. It's kind of like 9/11. Like, we will never travel again the way we did pre 9/11. There is no showing up 30 minutes before a flight and having no security and just throwing your bag into check-in and then walking on the plane. That day is long gone. And our business is long gone as well. Not always for the bad, because this has to happen. Every 80 years, it has to happen. And not because it has to, because we're victims of it, because we're the ones that create it in the first place, right? So we have ourselves to thank for a lot of the stuff that we go through. And so what we need to do is we need to understand it's a new world. But the beauty is your customers and your prospects are telling you exactly what they want for the next 9 years. There is no temporary fix right now. You're saying, you know what, just during COVID, I'm going to do this. Folks, that's permanent. You know what? They want me to bring the food out to curbside. They don't even want me coming in. That's not going away after COVID. That's here now. Okay. One of the busiest days of the year was October 13th. Did you know that was the busiest Christmas shopping day of the year? What day was October 13th last year? That was Amazon Day. Remember, Amazon had a special day in October. Busiest shopping day of the year. That day's not going away, folks. Black Friday is like, oh, that was so pre-pandemic. You know what I mean? Oh, what does Amazon have to say about that? Right? So people have told us what their preferences are, but here's what they've also told us. They've also told us they want more comprehensive services, they want more done-for-you services, and they're willing to pay more for it. And the person who grabs onto that and the company that grabs onto that is going to really grab onto COVID in a way that is very meaningful. Let me walk you through it. So over the years, I've developed the 7 stages of business growth. If you've studied life cycles, infancy, adolescence, and maturity, that's great. But you could be doing things just as bad when you're old as you could be doing them when you're young. This is a growth cycle. You get these 7 stages right, and you will power through any time frame. So first things first is, and we need to do this, you need to do this in COVID. Stage 1 is called strategic planning. And you need to make the promise no one else in your niche has the guts to make. Okay. So think about this. If you want to write it down, go for it. If not, you've got the recording and you can read through it again. Take the top 5 complaints that you are hearing from your customers and prospects. Maybe it's the reason why they didn't do business with you, right? Now, that's a hard concept for Brian because he closes everybody. So he can't go off of this one. But like Yvonne and Guy, for your benefit, think of anyone you may not have closed before, okay? Right? And what was some of the feedback? Why? Okay. Or you got the job and they said, hey, I chose you because you did this and the other person doesn't do that. All right. Also look at customer reviews. Write down the top 5 complaints. All right. And what you're going to do is you're going to roll that into a premium offering where you guarantee that will never happen to your clients or they get their money back. Okay. Top 5 complaints. I did this in my landscaping company. When I started out, I was 18 years old and I looked like I was 9. I mean, it was ridiculous. Right. And I saw a picture of a job I did back then. I'm like, oh my God, whoever would give that kid money for anything. Right. And my average sale was $60,000. And I came up with something called the standard and the guarantee, because all the complaints I were hearing was, you contractors, you never start on time, you never finish on time. You tell me one price and then it turns out to be something else. You don't stand behind your work. And there's no managers on the site. I've got to manage your people. So I said, okay, so you told me what work you want done on your house or your building or whatever. I gave you one quote, 60,000. Oh, so sorry, the average was 50,000 on the standard. And then I added a 35% premium for the same job. And I said, I will start on time no matter what. I will finish on time no matter what. Remember, I'm working outside now. It could pour for 2 weeks straight, doesn't matter. The ground could be frozen, doesn't matter. I will start on time. I will finish on time. There will be no contractor-driven change orders. That means when I dig a trench, I'm like, oh my God, there's a big rock down there. You got to pay me to get that rock out. I don't charge you for that because I should have known. I should have known better, right? I guarantee all of the plant material for a year, which was unheard of at that time. Home Depot changed that game, but at the time that was unheard of. And I'll have a senior project manager on every job site. Okay. Now, who in their right mind, if you guys can come off of mute for a second, who in their right mind would pay me 35% a premium for the same project? Remember, I start on time, I finish on time, no change orders, no contractor-driven change orders. Everything's guaranteed for a year, senior project managers on every job site. What type of buyer purchased the guarantee over the standard? Guys? Guy, Brian, Yvonne?
Premium buyer, the business owner that doesn't want to worry about things anymore.
Values your service, and a premium buyer. Translation, they've got the money. Who else?
Mm-hmm.
Brian, what do you think?
Well, I was going to say a property manager, some kind of maybe a high-end property. Maybe if you're doing commercial property for a property manager, they've got a high-end building. They don't care. Just make my client happy. Do it right, Carl. Get it done.
Service-oriented, a professional who's good to deal with, knows the drill. Okay. Any other thoughts as to why someone would buy that? There's one you're missing. One more you're missing. It was the number one reason why people would buy this. And by the way, the guarantee outsold the standard 2-1. One thing.
Maybe their experience has shown that they've not received the people on time.
Bingo. There was a time issue. I've got to close on this building. I need you, or I need a progressive payment. If you guys have ever done a construction project, I don't get paid until I break ground, or I don't get paid till the landscaping starts. Then I get my progressive payment. So they needed me to either start on time or finish on time to meet some sort of payment schedule or bank or compliance, right? So they did the math and they said, listen, oh, by the way, my guarantee was, if you do everything right as a client and I miss any one of the five, you get to keep the entire landscape and I write you a check back for the entire amount at the end. And my average sale was $67,500.
Wow.
How you liking me now? That business doubled every year for 7 years, and then I sold it. Every year. I was winning government contracts. I won a couple of government contracts on the guarantee because they were under such time distress. And they said, listen, he's either going to make it or we're going to get it all back for free. But what do we have to lose now? We're in such a deep sneakers on this project. This guy might actually help us bail us out. So I won a couple of government contracts on the guarantee. It outsold 2-1. Okay. Think about it for a moment and think about the type of buyers I was attracting. Professionals, buyers with money. They valued the service. They had the money. And did I mention they had the money? I'm not sure if I left that one out, Guy. Oh, and they had the money. So think about it. What if you could wave your wand and have the ideal client, who would you attract? Who would you want? That's who I got. Because I made the promise that no one else in the niche had the guts to make. Everyone knew it. Okay. Everyone in my consulting business now, I give a 5-1 guarantee. which means if I can't show you how to make her save 5 times the amount of my fee, the whole thing is free. Anyone can do it. I tell it on every keynote, every podcast, every training I ever do. The whole world knows it. 1.2 million people heard me say that last year, right? But still, the other advisors don't have the guts to try it, right? But that's been my model for 36 years. Every business I had, every client that I work with. So what's the promise you need to make? So write down those 5 complaints and work if you can just solve one of those, that's okay. If you could solve 3 of those, that's your silver. So if you could solve 1 problem, that's your bronze upsell. 3 is your silver. 5 is your gold. Okay. All right. Here are a couple of, for the sake of the recording, here's a couple of examples. All right. In-house financing, risk reversal, free shipping, I'll barter. Okay. Now we go to stage 2. Stage 2 is the specialty stage. And for those of you that are in franchise consulting, that's your business, you're a franchise consultant. So you're an expert, okay? So think you are the expert or authority, but even if you're not, even if you have a business, stage 2, the implication is you have to be known as a recognized expert in your field. Recognized expert, right? Because during winter season, not just COVID, but winter season of business, people are willing to pay more for your product or service if they believe you are an expert. Okay, your pricing strategy is key here, because your pricing strategy is the #1 way that you communicate with your clientele. Okay. Once you tell them what you charge, and I get it, in the franchising world, like you don't pay me, the concepts pay me. I get that. Okay. But the moment you tell them what you charge or what your fees are, you tell them 2 things: who you are as a company. Are you the highest end? Are you the mid-range? Are you the lower end? But you tell them, more importantly, who they are. Okay. So I saw this, I watched this analysis of watch building. And you know, the materials for a Rolex and the materials for many other watches are very, very similar. The difference is in the handcrafting and how we build it. So because you guys are slower and less efficient, you get to charge more. Think about it. Basically it. So what we want to do in stage 2, once we have established our expertise, we want to have a pricing strategy that has self-directed options, smaller modules, and bundles and subscriptions. Okay. The #1 commercial strategy in the last 500 years of this winter cycle that I've talked about is the creation of clubs. And in modern day, that's bundle, subscriptions, membership. Okay. So even if you're a franchise consultant, you can say, well, look, I don't charge you anything, but I do run a club of emerging entrepreneurs and emerging franchisees. It's $39 a month. And we run things like this every month. And so even though you're not going to pay me for helping you find a business, you may want to be in my club. #1 commercial strategy in the last 500 years of winter corrections. So you may want to give that some thought. Okay. #3, stage 3 is synergy. This is when we build an aligned team around our mission, vision, values, and purpose. Remember back in stage 1 when we were strategic planning and we wanted to make the promise no one else had the guts to make, and we wanted to have an amazing mission and vision? You're going to need it, because in stage 3, you're going to start bringing on people that have to believe in your mission, because you're still a personality-driven company, not a process or metrics-driven company yet. So in stage 2, think of an architect, an accountant, a speaker, a consultant, a rock star. Those are stage 2 businesses. The Rolling Stones, stage 2 business. Ariana Grande, stage 2 business. Okay. Stage 3, and you'll be happy to know, Guy, Justin Bieber, stage 2 business. All right. All right. Stage 3, now think of like professional service firms, like an accounting practice, a law firm, you know, where there's 9 names across the building, a real estate agency, Big Sky Franchising, where you have many associates within. Okay. That's a stage 3 business where we are all, and it's not quite a franchise, but it's a kind of in the fact that you're all operating under a brand and a system and some guiding principles, whether you're a franchise and your associates or you're within a business. Everyone has to be totally bought into what this company is all about, because you notice I haven't talked about systems yet. You don't have the money, time, or energy to train them yet. So they've got to at least believe in it enough. And if they do, you'll be fine. I ran the New York City Marathon a couple of times, 2002 and 2019, and it's one of the largest gatherings in New York. And 90% of the people that work are volunteers. They have no event planning experience. They're not crowd control people. They're just people that believe in the experience of a marathon. And it's mostly runners that volunteered for the day. It's one of the best run events I've ever been at. It runs like clockwork, and they're all volunteers. So it's not like, well, I got to pay more. No, you don't. You just need people who believe, right? And before we get into this whole conversation of, well, millennials this and nobody wants to work anymore, you don't need the whole world, and you don't need the whole millennial generation. You probably need a couple dozen people who care about what you're all about. That's it. You get a handful of people who believe in what you're doing. That's all you need. You don't need 10,000 people. You're not hiring 2,000 people this year. You're going to hire 5, right? 6, 10. Right? You just need 10 people who give a crap about what you're all about. Right? That's it. And you're off to the races. Okay. So that's really important, because stage 3 we call the graveyard for most small businesses. Right? Now, in stage 3, we want to make sure we have a message during COVID. If you haven't updated your message about touch-free, contact-free, off-peak options, CDC guidelines, I think it's only been like 9 minutes since the last time I sanitized my hands, or mask up, you name it. If your messaging needs to be refreshed during stage 3. We're watching companies really suffer right now because they think they're just going to turn the open sign back on and people are going to come running back, right? And what we were telling people a year ago this time, well, a year ago, say March and April, was no matter what you got to do, you get open and you stay open, because people are going to remember you when the world goes back to somewhat normal. They're going to remember that you did everything in your power to try to stay open. If you hang back and you'll say like, oh, we'll just wait until this is over, you're going to pay a price for that. I promise you. I see that everywhere. That's across all cultures and all countries. We're right now in a dozen countries, and it's happening everywhere I see it. So, okay. All right, we talked about the 5. Okay, so you remember we made the list of the 5 problems, right? So what I would do is I would take a page on your website, it's really easy to do, and call it Problems We Solve. And take those 5 customer complaints and write a paragraph as to how you solve those problems. Okay, so Problems We Solve page, top 5 complaints, paragraph about each one, because that's what people are searching the most right now. Okay. All right, we got out of the graveyard. We're in stage 4. Here we go. So stage 4 is the systems stage, and this is when we now start building the systems in the company. And the reason why we wait for this long, a huge mistake, is to try to systematize too early, because you'll kill the business. Right? Just think of an airplane. There's 2 times. It's a short period of time, but there's 2 times when an airplane is not on autopilot. Any of you guess when that might be? Take off and landing. Right. Once they get into the flight path, then they hit the autopilot button and then they monitor their gauges. But the reason why, so if you try to put systems in too early, plane never gets off the ground. And it puts too many restrictions. It doesn't allow you the flexibility. Stage 1, 2, 3 gets you proof of concept. This is where you want to be experimenting with your pricing. See if you can provide more services to a franchisor and charge them more. Here's where you can charge prospects for something. See if they'll bite. Now's the time to do it. Now is the time to find out. All right. So, Yvonne, you have a VA agency. All right. So here's what we tell all the VA firms that we work with, and we work with in 6 different countries. We say, don't try to be taskmasters. That's not what people are buying. They're hiring you because there's no other alternative. But we call it both, BOTH. Tell them you will run the back of the house of their business. That's what your clients really want. Regardless of what they tell you, oh no, I just went, blah, blah, blah. No, they don't. They can't stand running the back of the house. They want you to do it, and they will pay you to do it. Okay. And so you might start thinking about, well, how can I create a system and build up to where I can run more of the back of the house of my clients' businesses? And now in stage 4, we want to start to systematize. Okay. And as we start to do this, remember back in the beginning when I said, let's prove out that ultra premium offer, right? You're going to need it now because you're starting to systematize. You're bringing on more people, more resources. You're going to need the flexibility in your pricing. I just sat down with a guy who's got an amazing product about to take to market, but his margins are too narrow. And he's like, oh, I got to be at this price point. I said, yeah, but you don't have any money in there. There's no money. I don't see how you survive the launch because you don't have enough margin. And he didn't want to hear it. But I got an email back from him like, well, you know I was pushing back a little bit, but thank you for the sobering reality of my model. Okay. Remember that during COVID and during winter, okay, your pricing needs to show that you are an expert or an authority. And you do that by either being the highest priced in your niche or the lowest priced. Okay. In the middle, you get run over. Middle sector pricing is a fall or autumn pricing strategy for the autumn season, not the winter season. Pick your path. Okay. Now, for most of us, it's the chance to be the highest price. Now, in the franchise consulting world, that means going back to your concepts and saying, you don't want to be in the middle with them. You want to either be lower or higher than most, because they'll say, well, how are you guys able to pull that off? And, oh, well, we get paid 3 different other ways. Oh, really? Right? Or we're higher because here's what we do. We guarantee this, so we get higher, we get more targeted, people, or you name it. We get better franchisee, candidates, right? So you can't be in the middle. Now, pricing is the most emotional part that I see business owners get attached to. Well, wait, Carl, times are tough. Times are tough. I can't raise my pricing. What would that look like in COVID? All right. Again, you're not trying to get the whole COVID world out there. Wherever you drive to today, just count the businesses you pass and then count whatever business is on the way home. You couldn't service the businesses you drive by in one day in your entire rest of your life. You couldn't service all those businesses. You don't need all those businesses. You just need the ones that believe in what your plan is. So don't get shy and feel like, oh my God, I've got to cast this wide net. No, you don't. No, you don't. We're spear fishing. We're not dragging a net across the ocean. All right. And so let's find out, Rolex is very clear that they don't want everybody. Not everybody could even afford it. So you have to decide what you want to be competing for. Because if you're in the middle, you're invisible. You need to pick your path. Okay. And strategize how you get there. It's not just, oh, I'm going to just jack my fees. There's got to be a reason why. Or it's not, I'm not going to go low on my fees. There's got to be a reason why. Right. But that's the goal, is to create the plan where you are among the highest in your niche or among the lowest in your niche. And then you could justify it. Okay. All right. So this is the perception of quality. Is the higher your price, the higher perception of quality there is. Okay. All right. Now we've got stage 5. Stage 5 is what we call the sustainability stage. This is the stage of scale. If you make it to stage 5, this is where a franchise is born. Okay. So this is where you'll see franchises. You're a stage 5 business when you are known for something other than your product or your service. So Starbucks is known for the experience, not the coffee. As a matter of fact, there's a book about Starbucks called It's Not About the Bean. And in the opening part of the book, they say, we're not in the coffee business. It's too much of a commodity. We can't win that game. We're in the experience business. We can win that game, but we can't win it on coffee. We'd never survive. Okay. So, you know, McDonald's, fill in the blank, is the greatest blank story in history. Real estate. Think about this. I tell you I'm going to help you grow your business. And the first thing I'm going to do is pull all the experts out of your business. If you go to any one of McDonald's restaurants, it's the largest franchise restaurant chain, not deli, that's Subway. Okay. Largest restaurant franchise chain in the world. How many chefs do they employ at their restaurants? Zero. Zero. That should tell you what the focus of their business is. Okay. It ain't the food. Right. And you're thinking like, well, how can that be possible? Right. But they figured out, how can we be the lower price in the niche? Want to go out for a meal? We're among the lowest. How did you pull that off? Well, they found high margin products to sell, and what products they're even willing to give away. They give away their sandwiches just about. Big Mac's 99 cents. You now know how much it costs to make it. Right? But as long as you come and buy that supersized fries and supersized soda, we're going to make all our money there. Okay. So at stage 5, this is when you can expand to new locations, new product lines, new markets. All right. This is the stage most of my clients say to me, here's where I want to go. Okay. Get me there. Get me to stage 5. And they either want to buy their way or they want to leapfrog their way. You cannot buy this trophy. You have to earn this trophy. Okay. Because if you're not solid on the other 4, think back to stage 1. You have to have the promise, and stage 2, you have to have the pricing and the offerings. Stage 3, you've got to have a totally aligned team. Stage 4, you have to have the systems. You try to expand on stage 5 without those 4 foundations below you. Okay. As soon as you go to location 2, 3, 4, 5, you can't spread yourself out that thin. All of the locations go down. When you open a new location, high tide's supposed to float all boats. Okay, so we want to make sure that we've done that. All right, so stage 5, here you get the opportunity. One of the ways that you can do that is you align yourself with those who can provide complementary services to your ideal client. Okay, so you're trying to find, so JV just means joint venture. And for all the things that the airlines don't do well, one of the things they do great is they code share. Oh, you want to go to Albuquerque? Well, we don't fly there, but I'll put you on a competing airlines plane and their flight to get you there. And what they have found is, if I just solve the problem and I get you to Albuquerque, you'll come back to me. But if I don't get you to Albuquerque, you're going to leave me altogether. So it's better that I put you on a competitor's plane than not send you at all. Okay. So when you're looking to expand, one of the quickest ways to do it is to joint venture. So in the franchising world, what are you looking for? 40 to 52-year-old married couple, supportive spouse, $150,000 liquid capital, management experience, lives in the suburbs, has a 401k that they can flip into they can flip into an LLC and fund the purchase. Was that close? Not bad, huh? All right. So what else do these people buy? Well, they buy luxury cars and they live in the suburbs and they have cleaning services, and they don't climb on a ladder and clean their gutters, right? And they don't do their own oil changes. They go to Jiffy Lube or Valvoline, right? So now you know who you should be aligning with. What other service providers can you go to and say, hey, listen, I'll write a nice letter to my client list and my prospect list if you write a nice letter to your client list about me. Okay, one of the quickest ways right now, because it turns into word of mouth referrals on steroids. Okay. Stage 6 and stage 7 are the exit and transition strategy stages. Okay. So, oops. Whoa, wrong way on the arrow. So saleability is stage 6. And we say this is when an asset is born. Okay, an asset is born because you have built the management team that does three things without you being there. Number one, it generates leads without you having to do any work. Number two is it closes those leads into sales. And number three, it handles the fulfillment of those orders. Okay, notice I didn't mention that you had to have a financial person to maximize stage 6. You need to have a finance person in place, but we live in a world now where you can hire that expertise very, very easily. So you want to have those three hired, working for you to be ultimately saleable, because when somebody goes to buy your business, first thing they do is they say, well, who's the management team? Is this going to rely on Guy or Brian or Yvonne or Tom? And if it does, it's going to cut your valuation. But if it doesn't, it's going to raise your valuation. So stage 6 is like Uber and Amazon and Facebook. These are companies that acquire, or this could be the time when you take it public, or this might be the time that you sell. So if you have thought of an exit strategy for your business, right? That you might be thinking stage 6. So Yvonne, you might be aligning with outsourced bookkeeping firms, accounting firms, professional organizing firms. These are all the types of firms that have your clientele and want the services that you provide, right? Brian, Guy, Tom, you're looking for financial advisors, bankers, accountants. But I would also suggest you want like interior designers. Who do interior designers work for? People with big houses that they think enough of that they'll spend big money on to have them designed, i.e. your clients, right? So think about, your multi-location types, or your investor types. Where do they live? What are some of the services they get? Okay. Limousine companies, private drive, not Uber drivers, private drivers. Who's paying for that private drive? Golf and tennis country clubs, right? People who do, we have a client that does online flight training for those that want to get their pilot's license. That ain't cheap, right? If you're going to do that, who's the person that's likely to do that? The person with the time and money to do that, i.e. your prospect. So we want to joint venture with those types and get around them as much as possible. Okay. And then there's this stage 7, these succession stages. Now, I didn't pump a lot of slides into these top 2, thinking that these might not be the ones that you'll spend a lot of time on. But the stage 7 is the succession stage where a legacy business is born. So the business is firing on all cylinders. It's running without you, and And the day that you announce you're leaving the business, the value of your company rises because people understand the talent you have left behind in its place. Okay, so when Bill Gates announced he was leaving the day-to-day operations of Microsoft, that was very welcomed. Not because he wasn't a good CEO, but because he put a better CEO in his place. Whenever Steve Jobs got sick at Apple in the last parts of his life, since there was uncertainty about the legacy leadership that was in place, the value of Apple stock would drop every time he got a negative diagnosis. It's since proven that they do have strong leadership in place, but at the time there was not certainty in the marketplace that was the case. So it could be, I just use those because those are easy examples. But if you go to sell your business and the business is tied to you, most buyers will immediately, before the conversation even starts, cut the price that you're asking in half. Because they're going to say, well, as soon as Yvonne leaves, so are half of the clients. I can't rely on the company. They're going to be loyal to her. She signed them up. They all know her by name. Who's going to want Carl there? No, I don't think so. Right? So those were each of the 7 stages. So I'll take a second and open it up for some questions. So is there any? All right, finding the right virtual assistants, growing will manage your customer service quality. Okay, good. You're buying a franchise this year, adding staff. Okay. Okay, Monica, business advisory firm. All right, cool. So does anybody have any questions, comments? You want any clarifications? Well, that was great, Carl, but how does that work for me in my business? I don't, I don't understand what you're talking about. So any other thoughts or comments on what I've been talking about thus far?
Carl, this is Tom. I just had a quick question as you're going through this, each of these 7 stages, which by the way, amazing. Thank you for sharing this. I, for one of the things that always comes up, and this was kind of the alluding to my question, as you grow, you inherently take on more expenses, increase, you have to increase revenue to match it, and finding that balance, I can imagine the transition from one stage to the next. I've always been a big believer that life and just things in general, the transition's the hard part, kind of making that transition. Once you're there, it's a little bit easier to kind of flow through that. So could you maybe talk about those transition points a little, I guess, is where I'm going with that.
Sure. And that's a great question. So you think of a stair step, we work on stage 1, and then we have to maximize stage 1, and then stage 2, then stage 3. So we're a big fan of a couple of things. And, although I said in stage 6, you want to have a director of revenue, leads, and fulfillment, we say the first hire you make, the first person you hire is a financial person. Somebody who, I don't care what size business you are, I don't care if you do $100,000 a year and it's all you, and like, oh, come on, Carl, I just sit down on a Friday and I do my checkbook. I don't care. Go out, pay or overpay for a financial person who's going to handle all of your numbers. Because what you can start to do is you can build ratios. Okay, there's an accounting term called common value your financial documents. And all that means is you put percentages next to it. So if I did 100,000 this year and my costs were 50,000, right? The common value would say my expenses are 50% of my revenue. And then my commissions are 20% and right? So we want a column there that gives us percentages, because that will tell us, relative to our revenue, what are we spending our money on? But once we get those percentages, Tom, then I can tell if the percentage gets too low, that's not a good thing. And if it gets too high, that's not a good thing either. There's a range, a very comfortable range we want to be in the beginning. And you say, well, what do you mean? If my payroll is going low and low and low and low and low, isn't that good? Well, after a certain point, it's not, because you might be stretching your team too thin. So you might say a good range for me is between 17% and 22% of my revenue should be payroll. And if it goes over 22%, I'm not getting enough out of my team. And if it goes under 17%, I might be really spreading them thin. And so what we want to do is we want to establish ratios. So how much marketing money do I spend for my revenue? Well, it should be 5%. I'm at 9. Well, maybe I want to rethink what I'm spending my money on. Or I'm at 2. I need to spend more money. Okay. Or what I'm doing is, a couple of things I'm crushing it and some things aren't working, right? So what we want to do is get to the point very quickly where we can establish common value or percentage ratios. How much revenue per employee per year is each person worth? Okay. And that will help you at least understand when to make the decision. Right. And so in business, especially when it's growing, you are in a pay it forward exercise. So if you're thinking, I'm going to wait for the right time to hire that person, I'm here to tell you there is no right time. You have to hire them before you need them. The art is how, minimizing how early you have to hire them and how much extra you have to pay for them. But it is a pay it forward business. You don't want to wait until the need is already there and customers are complaining, because then when you bring somebody on, your team is overwhelmed, they can't train them. And here's the analogy that really stuck with me the best. You want to pay it forward, meaning hire somebody quicker than you need, get that software sooner than you need, buy that office a little bit sooner than you need. Otherwise, it's like playing tennis. All right. So imagine the game of tennis. You're playing one-on-one tennis, and they hit the ball, and you're like, wow, I am running way all back and forth. There's a lot of place to cover. I got it. I'm gonna get a partner. We're gonna play doubles. You cover that side, I cover this side. And so you cover in the court, but then a ball comes right down the middle. And you're about to swing and they're about to swing, but neither of you swing and it goes through the middle. And you're like, I get it. Wherever we overlap, that's the problem. I got an idea. Let's put somebody on that line, right on that line. Now we've covered the whole court and we took care of that one line. But guess what it just created? 2 more lines. Now there's 3 people with 2 lines in between them. And we've covered the whole court, but if that ball goes right on the line, those 2 people say, oh, I thought you had it. 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 And the ball goes through. So you're like, I got it. We're going to hire 2 more people. We're going to put them on those lines. Now, what have you created? 4 more lines. So if you wait too long, it's like the tennis analogy, and you're creating more lines or more things can sneak through. However, if you hire earlier, train them right, it's a pay it forward in growth. It's a pay it forward business. Unfortunately, people hire me after they realize that. And they're like, oh my God, we're in deep sneakers here. You know, we're not making money. I got this call once. Carl, I am selling more for more, meaning more units at a higher price. Why am I out of cash? That was the question. Why am I out of cash? How is it possible I'm out of money when I am selling more product at a higher price and we are out of money? How did that happen? Now, I could save you the short story is too much inventory, hired too many people, didn't have a line of credit to cover them during the valley times. Those were challenges, right? So, so when you're thinking about going from one step to the next, before you take that next step, you have to look at the requirements of that next step, make it now before you go to the next step. You put the standards in place first and the accountability in place first, and then you hire to the standards and the accountability. You don't build a team and then say, oh, guys, by the way, let's get around in a room and let's decide on how we're going to measure ourselves. Okay. That's the wrong thinking. A lot of companies do that, and we have to unwind that. The best way to go is set the standards first, set the measurements first, then hire people that believe in that sort of thing. I know that was a very long answer to your question, Tom, but
it's very helpful. Very helpful. Thank you. No, that was a great explanation. Thank you.
So any other thoughts, comments, questions? You know, I am one person in a sea of franchise consultants. I don't know if you guys know this, but we helped launch the Franchise Brokers Association back in 2007. So we helped them launch that company. So I'm very, very aware of what you guys go through and how you do it and all that sort of thing. So anything about your franchise consulting or business advisory firm that you have a question about? Now, I know my New Year's resolution was to explain things better in the 2021, but I didn't do that good of a job. It's only January 8th. Oh, God, you're in the FBA. Okay, right on.
Well, Carl, I had a question, I guess for post the webinar session here, if someone's interested in, talking with you or working with one of your coaches, how, or one of your advisors, how do they get in touch with you? What's the best way to do that?
Sure. So, so Carl Gould, so my email is on the screen, carl@carlgould.com. That'll go directly to me. So if you have a question, feel free. You can go to 7stageadvisors.com or carlgould.com. And in the contact us, we have a free service that we call the business analysis. And what it does is it'll look at your business and show you the growth potential of your company as it stands right now. So if you're doing 100,000, we will help you determine whether or not you should be at 200. If you're 5 million, you might be a $5 million business performing right at 5 million as you should, or you might be underperforming and you really should be 6. we will show you the formula that will determine that. So if you'd like to spend a couple of hours with a growth advisor, no obligation, no charge for it. By all means, do that. If not, then just any way that I'm pretty easy to find on the internet. So you follow any one of those. And if I can ask a special favor, very special favor, okay? I put my 15-year-old daughter to work. She wanted a job. So I said, honey, you are in charge of my TikTok account. Okay. So she has created all the videos. It's her job to think of the idea, come up with the ideas, and then film them. She's like a week in, and the last 3 videos, should hire her to do all my social media. She's 15, by the way. And my last 3 videos all have had over 1,000 views in the first day. The last one being like 2,100 views. So please check out TikTok and throw a comment my way. If you don't mind, you're really throwing a comment Vanya's way, and you'll see she's in one of them. But so I can give a little bit of a boost to my daughter who's trying to find her feet in the working world. So if you wouldn't mind doing that, I would appreciate that.
All right. I love it. I'm going to look it up right after here. Check that out and see add to the 1,000 plus, 2,000 plus views for you there.
Yeah. So I appreciate that. So and guys, if you have a question, or if you're marinating on some of the things we're talking about, and later on you just want to circle back and say, you know what, this stuck with me, I wanted to ask about, feel free to reach out, and I'll be happy to set up a time for us to chat one-on-one and be able to help you in any way I can.
Wow. Well, Carl, this has been amazing. Thank you so much. I've got a whole, pages worth of notes here that I've been taking, following along. So this has been great. I see a lot of the other folks have been writing as well along the way. We will rebroadcast this. So anyone who missed it or you'd like to watch it again, we did record this, and we will be publishing this here, generally go live by Monday. We'll have it up and available. So Carl, this has been awesome. Thank you. And really appreciate it.
Oh, my pleasure. Have a great New Year, everybody. And, I'm wishing you a really prosperous New Year. Enjoy.
Thank you so much.